Greetings from Castle Gory, from Mickey, Diesel, and Aurora, who's can't wait to shove Diesel aside. Diesel has come to stay with us, and here he is for his Norma Desmond moment. I think he might be related to Meghan Markle. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, without further ado, I'm going to plunge right in and hope that these babies will behave themselves. Otherwise, I will have to take Diesel outside. He's so affectionate. To those of you who don't know, Diesel is my grandson. He was Mickey's only son. Oh, he's so sweet. Yes, he's come to visit us. Before plunging in, I'm going to read out something from someone called Era. Hi there. Is there any way I can contact Lady Colin Campbell regarding fostering and adoption in the United Kingdom? It's still a terrible situation with very good families being overlooked and children left in the system for years and moved around. It's heartbreaking. We are struggling with a situation ourselves. Maybe Lady C might kindly lend her eloquent and passionate voice to our cause if she learns more about it. Many thanks in advance. I'm reading it out because I suspect this is going to be the most effective way of reaching Era. And what I'm going to say to you is the system is corrupt. It was corrupt when I was trying to adopt. It remains corrupt. I could do a whole program on the corruption in the adoption and fostering system and how completely counterproductive it is for the interests of the children. If you would like to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so by getting in touch with inquiries@castlegoring.com, saying that you are Era, giving your correct name, etc., and we can knock heads together to see how I can help. It is a shocking disgrace what has gone on in this country for decades. The corruption is beyond belief, and it is so that the social workers and the lawyers and the council workers can feather their nests and keep their jobs going. And the only way to do that is to have a problem. They create the problem, perpetuate the problem, rather than solve the problem. So without further ado, I will plunge in with Felix the cat, who says, "Hello, Lady C. Do you think that Meghan will soon be dumping Harry? They already seem to be living apart." No, they're not living totally apart. They get together for events publicly. She is often out on her own, privately. He is often out on his own, privately. They have been leading separate lives to a large extent. Do I think she'll be dumping him soon? My information was that he's the one who called in the lawyers. She didn't call them in. So who's dumping whom? And it's very positive if that information is accurate. Of course, it might not be accurate because both of them have a very loose connection to veracity. And they also have a very close connection to misinformation, disinformation, and malformation of fact. So I don't know what to believe, and when I don't know what to believe, I believe nothing. The first time I ever came across the phenomenon of somebody who lied to such an extent that you couldn't believe a word that he said was when I was married to my ex-husband. He changed his position and his version morning, noon, and night. So 3 times during the day you got a different take on the same situation. My mother was a cleverer and subtler liar, but you then discovered down the line that she was also a terrible liar. So I'm practiced at knowing what to deal with when you're dealing with architects of misinformation and propaganda. Don't believe a word. But by all reports, things aren't looking good. And I hope that the information is accurate and that he is the one who called in the lawyers. And that means that he stands a fighting chance of survival, because there have been doubts that he would ever come out of this marriage intact or in reality. So, more than that I do not wish to say, but some of it is in my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, including the fears his family have had for what would happen at the end of the relationship. Because everybody always thought the relationship was going to come to an end. I have to say, I'm not one of those everybodies. I have seen with my own parents where an opportunistic, exploitative narcissist will keep her prey at bay, then embraced, as and when it suits her. And if the man is weak enough, gullible enough, I really think weak is the word, he will go along with it, because some people don't ever want to face the fact that their decisions were the wrong decisions and that they have helped to bring about the sorry past they find themselves in. Jackie Rydstrom says, here's another theory to the reason Meghan didn't go and pick up the award. She's referring to Meghan's award for the Gracie Awards. Perhaps Harry wasn't aware of the setup surrounding that catastrophic car chase, and there was an almighty bust-up afterwards where he refused to attend the following awards ceremony. And for the optics, Meghan didn't want to go it alone and fuel the rumours that their marriage is in trouble. And she wants to know what I think of this. It is a valid interpretation. I think I have already indicated that my information was that at the end of it all, there was a furious row because they didn't, well, it hadn't worked out the way it was intended to be. And I also indicated during the aftermath of the situation in one of my episodes that you only needed to look at Harry's face as he was exiting the building to see that if his expression was authentic, and he's not usually that good an actor, well, let me put it another way. He's not a fraud the way she is a fraud, because you can't trust one expression on her face. But he's pretty readable, and his expression changed within a few seconds from smiling and jubilant to very concerned, anxious, and total mood change into fury, cold fury. That alone suggests that your theory has some merit. Maybe he's really getting fed up with being despair to Norma Desmond. Maybe he's realized that being the spare to his elder brother William had some dignity, and being spare to Meghan has none. They have fed the rumours that the marriage is in trouble. I can't tell you how I know that, but I know that. I have been saying from, I think before Spare was published, that there are problems in the marriage, and that the word was that Harry was looking for a way out. So that's been going on for a good few months now. Then they get together publicly, and they are ostensibly all lovey-dovey. Could one or the other be true, or could both be true? Well, I have to tell you, having witnessed my parents' marriage with its ups and downs, and when Mummy wanted to create drama, she created drama, and Daddy was cast into the wilderness. And when she wanted to reel him back in, he was reeled back in, and the idiot used to go along with it, as if, finally, we're back to what we were. Now, that's actually quite a common dynamic with narcissistic relationships and their victims. Or is it just a cynical setup? Nobody really knows. Nobody. Not the people close to them, not the people who have known Harry all his life. Nobody really knows. I don't think he really knows either, unless, of course, he has called in the lawyers, and he is duplicitous along with her in this facade of harmony, which of course is necessary for them to keep on making money, because separation and divorce is going to be very ugly, unless of course the king pays her enough to sew up those liver lips, because really they are so flaccid and repellent, constantly open, chattering away like an eel. Now, liver is a good, because liver is slippery. So, yeah. Will he be able to sew her into silence by giving enough of a settlement? Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Because I don't think she's in any rush to discard Harry unless she has a better replacement. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Her pattern has been from the word go: target, seduce, enchant, captivate, torment, because she evidently is quite the prima donna with her men and has them coming and going in a state of total confusion. One minute she loves them, the other minute it's constant recriminations and how they failed her and blah, blah, blah. And when she discarded Trevor, she didn't discard him until she had other prey in sight and another situation well formulated. Is that happening here? Not so far, to the best of my insight. Let me use that word. Not in information, insight. Let's see. Jessie Fry says, how amazing it is. Tina Turner, the international queen of rock and roll, moved to England because Motown told her her music was too white to be black, and Arista told her she was too black to be white. She said England was far more accepting of her and her music. England did not care that she was black, nor did they claim that her music was too white. Yes, Meghan, half black, half white. No, she's not. She's 3/4 white. Is a victim of the United Kingdom. Oh, how the sanctimonious do fall. I love it. Your observation is very sound. I have to say, I loved Tina Turner's music. And I thought she was a fabulous entertainer. Very interesting life as well. And you notice, despite difficulties, she never embraced the victim role. I have never met somebody who was a true victim of life or other people who embraced the victim role, unless they were seriously mentally ill or emotionally disturbed. You cannot have a good and happy life and embrace the role of victim. The two things are mutually exclusive. And yes, that's a very good point about Tina Turner, but it doesn't only apply to Tina Turner. I have a very distant cousin called Chris Blackwell, who was the founder of Island Records. And I'll tell you the connection. His mother was a Lindo, Jamaican, and one of my great-grandmothers a few times over was a Lindo. So that's the connection. We're not close cousins, but we're distant cousins. And I don't really know him well. I've met him a few times. I like him. We certainly have a lot of friends in common. And one of his leading guys at Island Records, Dickie Jobson, was a childhood friend of mine. So I know quite a bit about him. And I read his autobiography. And he makes the point that it's thanks to him that Millie Small had that huge hit with My Boy Lollipop. And he is the one who steered Bob Marley's music from being really roots black into something more inclusive. Now, Chris, of course, is a white Jamaican. Well, half Jamaican, half English. Blackwell should be a giveaway. Cross and Blackwell, the sauce manufacturers. That's his papa's surname. And he understood that to be a huge star internationally, if you were black, it was best to have crossover. So, and Chris was functioning not only in Jamaica, but in England, and signed up a whole load of huge superstar English white as well as black performers. And yes, it proves that we in Britain have been far ahead of the curve, and that Meghan Markle's claims are not only stupid, they bear no relationship to Britain whatsoever. they may bear a passing relationship to the American scene, especially 30, 40, and 50 years ago, and 60 years ago. But even to the American scene now, very little relationship. Sherry Evans says, Harry's USA deportation risk? That's the question. Seems some Americans are delving into Harry's immigration status and whether he told the truth about his drug taking. How likely is it that he could be asked to leave, or best case scenario, even get forcibly deported? Sherry Evans, I hate to disappoint you, but I cannot in a month of Sundays see Harry being deported, nor can I see him actually suffering any consequences, even if he lied on his application. I don't think it would happen with a Republican government in power. I don't think it would happen with a Democrat. I think it certainly won't happen with this Democratic government in power. I mean, he and Meghan went to great lengths to try to get Joe Biden elected, which caused no end of problems where the British were concerned, because we do not allow our royals to get involved in party politics. But Mickey, oh, it's Diesel. He's come to bring me a tissue. But Diesel, you haven't brought me a tissue. And I feel the sniffles coming on. Well, I don't think it's going to happen. But if we lived in a rather more equitable world, with the equity that Harry and Meghan claim to seek, he would actually nominate himself for deportation and exclusion from the United States of America on ethical and moral and principled grounds. After all, people of principle usually expect the principles to apply to them as well as to everybody else, don't they? Lily J says, I wonder if those who betrayed the people who believe in the Black Lives Matter movement and trusted them realize they did it for the same reason people participated in the slave trade, financial gain. Very good observation. You know, I find it outrageous that Black Lives Matter could have been, well, let me rephrase that, that its purpose of advancing the interests of all Black people could have been so perverted by greed and immorality, and that it happened very early on. It seems to have been a massive money laundering exercise, with much money going to pay off their supporters in one way, form, or another. And for a while, people actually believed that it was a creditable as well as a credible organization. I mean, the crass lack of anything decent to set up an organization that is ostensibly there to further the interests of a group that is being purported to be disadvantaged, and then taking advantage of the donations. I mean, And of course, it was done for money, for financial greed, and also for kudos, for praise, for reputation. And what amuses me with people like the Black Lives members who have had their hands in the till and been caught out to the tune of millions per dip into the till, and people like Meghan Markle, is that a little bit of patience, a little bit of integrity, a little bit of decency applied to the situation, a little bit of restraint would have assured them of great success. Maybe not immediate financial reward, but they'd have got the financial reward down the line, just maybe not as much as their greed dictated that they help themselves to. And they would have been covered in glory, instead of which they're all going to be covered in shame. Maybe they won't feel ashamed, but they will be figures of shame to right-thinking people. Joanna Ennis says, Meghan Markle should be made the patron saint of Black Lives Matter, as she epitomizes their leadership's aims and values. Yes, brilliant idea, Joanna Ennis. Diesel's come to join me. I think you ought to suggest it to the leadership at Black Lives Matter, because Meghan's avowed aims and intentions are identical to Black Lives Matter's avowed aims and intentions. And the consequence of her activities would appear to be very similar, if not identical, to the way that the Black Lives Matter movement's founders and their families and their friends and their relations, partners, have all had their nests feathered. Interesting how corruption and nepotism, flagrant as it is condoned in certain quarters and condemned, rightly so too, in other quarters. And sometimes when a gifted relation of a well-placed person is starting out and flourishing, and they are on the wrong side of the political divide, they are roundly condemned for nepotism. But the crooks and the con artists on the other side of the political divide, who are simply exploiting the sympathies and the goodwill of their supporters, are never called out. You wonder why, don't you? Oana Avornisse says, Dear Lady C, just a thought. If anything, I think what the so-called incident in New York proves is that no level of security will ever be capable of protecting Harry and Meghan. This is a really interesting point she's going to make. If security officers who were good enough for Obama did such an embarrassing job for Harry and Meghan, it can only mean that the danger comes from within, and there is no security against that. Also, how would that incident help his court cases in the UK? I have been chased in New York, therefore I need security in London. Who buys these not nearly credible arguments? The people in charge of security in New York don't. The taxi driver doesn't. Their security detail seems roundly discredited and reduced to just that, a mere detail, and they look like fools. What a shoddy business this whole mess of a contrivance is. Much love to you and the fur babies. I've read it out because I don't think anybody could have put it better than you have put it. There is no doubt that the whole thing was orchestrated to put pressure on the British courts, and it shows a degree of naivety where both Harry and Meghan are concerned, if they both plotted and planned it, and if only one of them, and it would appear of his expression as they were leaving the venue that she's the one who plotted it and planned it, because so smug. I'm just so pleased with myself, Mr. DeMille. Nobody is actually more pleased with herself than I am with mine. I'm just so cool and calm and collected, even as I'm sitting in traffic and saying that this is a near catastrophic moment, and I relate to my husband, who's about to have a nervous breakdown because this reminds him of his mother's death. How tragic. I mean, no question of us taking advantage of his mother's death, because we both love his mother. I channel her on a daily basis, and he adores her, and that's why he married me, because I'm her in another body. Sort of. Oh, goodness. Are we getting in trouble here, Mr. DeMille? Are we getting to be a sort of Jocasta and, what's that funny person's name? The one Rexy, sexy Rexy? Oh, Oedipus Rex. We're getting into difficulties, aren't we, Mr. DeMille? I better get off the subject. Totally contrived. The whole thing. Totally contrived, totally ridiculous. And if they're not on drugs, they need to be put on medication, because no rational or sane person could have come up with a plot and a plan and a scenario like that. An 80-mile-an-hour car chase in New York, where if you get it to 5 miles an hour, you're doing well. And there they are photographed in traffic. And there are their security details stopping traffic with no authority to do so. Etat says, or etat, it could be etat. Lady C, what do you make of the report in today's Times that Hugh Grant lost part of his claim against the Sun? Oh, yes. He lost a part of the claim, but the matter is proceeding to trial, even though the evidence upon which it is based by a certain private detective and jailbird called Gavin Burrows has more holes in it than Meghan and Harry's sieve. Mirror Group newspapers years ago settled a considerable number of claims once the phone hacking scandal broke in relation to the News of the World, which was closed down in 2011. That's 12 years ago. And the Sun, which is the paper in question, has systematically and consistently denied any unlawful information gathering ever took place within their newspaper. So a spokesman for the Sun said, actually it's for News Group newspapers, which is the Murdoch press, said, News Group newspapers is pleased that following our application, the High Court has ruled that Mr. Grant is statute barred from bringing a phone hacking claim against the Sun. The remainder of his claim, which has been brought following a statement made by Mr. Gavin Burrows in 2021, has been allowed to proceed to trial. News Group newspapers strongly denies the various historical allegations of unlawful information gathering contained in what remains of Mr. Grant's claim. Now, Hugh Grant has a bee in his bonnet where the press is concerned. He, ever since he was caught with Divine Brown's mouth clapped over a certain part of his anatomy in public, he has had a huge problem with freedom of the press and the press's right to report upon conduct that is unseemly done and indulged in by public figures. He never had to be in his bonnet before. Divine Brown had certain things in her mouth. Only since then. I am a strong supporter of a free and responsible press. And yes, if the press breaks the law, or if the press indulges in unacceptable practices, ethically or legally, the press should be disciplined. Hugh Grant wants it shut down. He and the late Max Mosley, who also was caught in a compromising position of, shall we say, the horizontal nature, this time with tarts. And that was exposed in the News of the World. They formed hacked off. Now, I've had my phone tapped. I was phoned up during Operation Wheating, and I refused to cooperate. Anyway, we're not going to go into that. All I'm trying to say is that Hugh Grant has an axe to grind, and I'm pretty sure had he never had a problem with his zip involving Divine Brown and been caught being the recipient of her efforts, I don't think he would be taking the stance he has taken ever since this happened. Yes, it was humiliating for him, but he was guilty as sin. I mean, Excuse me, you want to do something like that? At least do it in a hotel. I mean, honestly. You know, he should be beating himself up for his poor judgment, not trying to beat the press into submission, shades of Harry and Meghan. Anyway, his statement says, through his lawyers, Gunnar Cook, he says, I am pleased that my case will be allowed to go to trial, which is what I have always wanted, because it is necessary that the truth comes out about the activities of the Sun. As my case makes clear, the allegations go far wider and deeper than voicemail interception. Well, Gavin Burrows is a jailbird who was discredited. Is he going to give credible evidence? Is he going to be a credible witness? Let's wait and see. All of this is years out of date, and I really don't like celebrities and public figures trying to endanger one of the foundations of a democratic society because they couldn't keep their zip up and haven't learned the lesson, which is, you, baby, were at fault. You should have been doing that in the privacy of your hotel room. As simple as that. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in, and feel free to expand to as many subjects as you would like. I am very happy to address anything that is of interest to you as long as I know something about it. Okay? Thank you so much. God bless. And if you have enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed.